The center of the Nana's garden block is perfect for embellishments. There are a number of different things that you can do. You might want to have your grandchild put acrylic paint on their hand and then just put a great handprint right in the center of the block. Some primary colors around the outside edge to finish it. Or if you have a computer sewing machine, look at the great stitches, embroidery work that you can do right in the middle. Or if you'd like to have an autograph party, perhaps something to commemorate a wedding anniversary, this is the perfect space for writing with a permanent marking pen. Well, I want to do some photographs. Ooh, I've been thinking about this and gathering up some pretty pictures. Now first, I took my photographs to the copier and you just place them on one sheet like this, tape them down on the back side, and then they photocopy them in color onto a special sheet of paper. And you can see I ask for a mirror image. Look at that. It's all turned around. And then you can go ahead and just cut out your photos, maybe a little circle of them all ready to go. I want to use this one of my mom and dad because they are both the gardeners. Now, it's perfect on the press. And because the Nana's garden block is set on point, I've got my background fabric on point in the press. And then you just take this, center it right on that block, right side down, and then just take a second piece of fabric and put it on top. And oh, I'm going to time myself because this isn't going to take long. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. And oh, I hope it wasn't too long. Okay, and then as soon as you lift that press up, let's see if that, oh, look at that. That is great. Perfect. Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and set it one more time. Make those colors nice and bright on there. Ooh, I can't wait to turn this into a whole quilt of family memories.
Yeah.
Oh, Mackie.
Hi.
Well, what have you been doing?
Planting petunias.
Oh, I like this big block right there.
Fussy cut.
It is fussy. Look at your hummingbirds.
Isn't that great?
Those
I
are
finished my
cute.
quilt. Bought it to show you.
Ooh,
My family.
it's the family history.
Yes, my daughter Sherida
Oh, she's so cute.
and me in my 50s.
Oh, Mackie, you were really that young.
Yes, I was once.
Oh, come on.
And my mother Irene.
That is such a beautiful photo.
That was taken in the 1800s
Oh, my gosh.
by a professional photographer. She was
Love
very
it.
young,
Love
very
it.
young. And this is my father's mother, Grandma Gretton.
Oh, Grandma Gretton.
And then my mother's mother, Grandma Cook.
Ah, so you called them both Grandma, huh?
Uh-huh.
No nanas?
No nanas, Grandma.
Oh, no nanas. That is beautiful.
My mother-in-law, my daughter called my mother-in-law Nana.
Oh, good.
That's where the Nana came in.
Good.
Yeah.
You know what? Thank you for all those Nana's quilts.
Well, you're welcome. I'm
Well,
glad you
thanks.
enjoyed them.
You can make Nana's garden in different sizes and different fabrics. I have a great stack of quilts to share with you. Now this one is a queen size quilt and the blocks fit right on the mattress. And then this part right here hangs over the edge of the bed. First we have the rainbow border followed by two more borders just to get that perfect fit. Loretta Smith made this quilt and she selected all large-scale multi-floral prints, and oh, it's just great. When those pieces are all sewn together, it actually looks like a medium piece of fabric. And then she finished it off with some motif quilting in the background squares. It's just beautiful. And actually, it reminds me of a watercolor quilt when it's all sewn together. Now, how about the masculine touch? There are only 10 different fabrics in this quilt. And right here you can see that this is a planned cornerstone quilt. 2 different colors right here in the corners. And then off in the edge, you can see that the corners have been cut on the diagonal for a great finishing touch. And oh, look at the back. Is that not a great piece for the masculine touch? This is just a baby quilt. Nice size to snuggle in. Now this one is a period quilt. This is from the 1890s. And it has all lights, mediums, and darks. And oh, look at the different textures. Checks in it, small scale prints. This one also has some motif quilting in the background square. It's got the rainbow border and then that cut off diagonal corner. Well, for another period, how about the 1930s? This is reproduction feed sack fabric, and Becky made this one. Oh, I just love that scrap bag look. All soft pastels going through there. Wonderful motif right here, and then look at the corner. She cut it off, but she did all of that wonderful machine quilting for a finishing touch. Ooh, I just love the feel of it. I'd like to snuggle in that one. Well, you can't really call this one a Nana's garden. Why don't we just call it Santa's workshop? It's perfect for holiday decorating in the reds, the greens, and there's even a touch of blue in it. And the background is just that crisp Snow White. What a great quilt for Christmas. Well, I'd love to sit and share quilts with you, but I need to get downstairs and get back to work. An old Chinese proverb says, "One who plants a garden plants happiness." Well, I'm happy because my blocks are done and they're ready to sew together. Now for the baby quilt, you start with 3 blocks on the point. So let's just start right down here. And if you go ahead and use something square like your mat, then it'll help you see how they all fit together. You can make sure as you lay them out that you don't have the exact same fabrics touching each other. Oh, and one right up here. Yeah, looking good. Now we're just going to go ahead and fill in these empty spots right here. Make sure that the cornerstones are all different, and then the blocks, the sections, that each one of those are different as well. Let's see if we can add one more right here in this section. Oh, how about 2 purples together? Let's turn it around. We'll get something real bright next to it. Looking good. Okay, now I did another row already. I sewed that. That's ready to put into place. Now, we have the outside edges and the corners that we need to fill in. And the edges come from 1 block cut on the diagonal. But actually, let's just go ahead and sew that first before we get it cut. Now, take a pencil, drop your ruler corner to corner. Make sure you draw a nice dark line. This is on the diagonal on the bias, so we need to put a stabilizing stitch right there. That's for the edges, and the corners come from drawing diagonal lines on all 4 corners. Diagonal, corner to corner, one right here. Let me turn this one, go this way. Ooh, what good marks. You are gonna see all those marks going along there. Okay, stabilizing stitch is a 1/8 inch seam. Just go ahead and use the 15 stitches to the inch. That's fine. Line up your presser foot on one side of the diagonal line and just zoom right down across there. Now once you get down to the bottom, go ahead, turn it, and go back the opposite side. Now from each one of these, we're going to get 2 of them to fit along there. Oh, that is a great straight stitch, Al. It's a good thing that's going to go on the outside edge. And then once you have the edge blocks done, your corners, go ahead and butt that behind. You only need to have 1 block for each quilt with the 4 lines drawn. Now, have you ever thought about all of the different names that grandchildren call their grandmothers? Well, of course, they call them Nana. That's a start. Well, my mother wanted to be called Grandma. I called my father's mother Grandma. But my mother's mother wanted to be called Mom. She says, "No, Grandma, for me, I want to be called Mom." So that's what we called her. But they call grandmas kind of funny names too. Oh, I've heard of Meemaw. That's a funny one. All different kinds of names. Let's see what you call your grandma. By her first name. It's kind of like a contemporary thing, isn't it? Well, one of my favorite memories was an Easter egg hunt that my grandmother threw for all of us. It was spring and the daffodils were blooming, and she went out in the tall grass and she actually cut the grass and dug these little holes and buried the eggs underneath the grass, and then she put daffodils on top. Oh, it was just such a beautiful spring day in Pennsylvania. I'll never forget. She fooled us all. We couldn't find those eggs. We found them years later. Okay, that's the corner block right now. Now we're going to cut First you sew, then you cut. So take your ruler, line that up on the diagonal, cut right down through there. Then that's a nice stabilizing edge around the outside. Second one, only one for each quilt, right down through the middle. And let me just go ahead and break that in half and cut across here. And one more cut, and we are going to get this all laid out. Okay, now let's see if they're going to fit. Take this piece right here, goes right in that spot. Make sure that you don't put the same cornerstones across from each other. And then this piece is going to go right in this spot like this. Now the corners going to get turned like this, and that fits right in there. Oh, that's great. Now what's interesting, whenever you sew these together, you actually don't have that 1/4 inch seam allowance sticking off the end. They're just actually going to be a straight line across there, and then we'll straighten that in just a bit. And then take, once you've got your whole top laid out, and pin your blocks together into rows, and then sew them together so they're all chained together. And look at this. Let's just pull this one down here, because this is just going to fit in place and just got a couple missing points. But let me show you the edge on this one. You can see what it looks like whenever you've got that all sewn together. Stabilizing stitch around there. Got your row sewn together, get your corners, then sew your whole top into one big piece. Let me get this finished. I'm finishing up my rainbow border, and it's going quickly. Now I have a stack of those leftover sections from the blocks. I'm just assembly line sewing 2 of those together into pairs, just butting them one right after the other, and I'm making sure that the seams are going in the same direction. And then as soon as pairs are sewn together, then I'm just clipping off pairs and sewing the pairs into sets of 4. Ooh, let me turn them over. See that they're all going in the same direction. Yep. Okay, flip this one, sets of 4, and then just in a jiffy, we're into sets of 8. And all you want to do is assembly line sew these so that you have pieces that are longer than the sides of your quilt. Let's see. You think this one will make it? Ah, for sure. Okay, so once you've got a long strip made, then just go and press that seam right down along there. Go ahead and use the grid, line that up, set those seams. Ooh, look at these beautiful colors. Every single color of the rainbow is in this strip. Now it goes in between 2-inch wide strips, and the finished strip set looks like this. But go ahead and place it, but when you sew, you always want to turn it so that you have the seams on top, and you can see that they're going down in that direction. So just sew right along there. Once that's finished, then you're going to just open it up, and then you can go ahead and turn it over. So you've got those seams on top again. Assembly line sew that right down there, and wouldn't you know it, got one together already. Because I want to show you the last pressing step. You're just going to go on the back side and make sure those seams go out over towards your background pieces. Oh, it looks great. Well, tell you what, don't have enough room on this table. Let me get rid of my sewing machine so I can just spread out and show you how these rainbow borders fit on this quilt. Now I have space to square off the edges of this quilt. I placed it on my mat, and it's going along with the lines on the grid. I'm using my 6 by 24-inch ruler. Ooh, I've got a perfect 90-degree angle right here. Just hold your ruler down and trim off along there. And actually it would be best if you didn't have to move this, but I think I'm just going to have to slide this along ever so slightly. I'm going to keep that straight on there. Boy, after all of this work, it's turning out so pretty. Don't want to mess it up now. Okay, once you have your quilt square, measure your sides. You're going to have 2 long sides, 2 short sides, whatever. This one is square. But cut your rainbow borders to equal the sides of your quilt. And you can see right here, this is the exact size of the side of my quilt. And then with your quilt on the bottom, flip your rainbow border right sides together to it. And because there is just a little bit of bias, a little stretch on those outside edges, just pat gently and pin these pieces in place. And then whenever you go to your sewing machine, make sure you sew with the quilt underneath, and then you won't get any puckers or any ripples in there. Oh, this is going great. Let me just stick one more, and I'm going to slide this back, and I'll show you how it looks on the opposite side. Now, I already set the seam and folded it out on this end. It's laying nice and flat. And notice how you go along here. Remember I said you don't have that 1/4 inch seam allowance? Well, it's just a straight line right into all of those pieces, the colorful pieces. Now, once you have 2 opposite sides sewn on, you're going to go ahead and put the 2 remaining sides in place. Now, I went ahead and attached 5-inch squares. These pieces are actually 5 inches in width. Whatever the width of your border is, then you want to go ahead and cut squares for the corners. See how they're going to fit right in there? Just going to line that seam up. Doesn't matter if they cut off if you only have a unit there, but you'll flip it right sides together, sew along there, and fold it back. And then that's what that corner is going to look like. Now, actually, you could go ahead and do a little chopped corner, a little diagonal corner. Looks great on this quilt, too. Well, all I need to do is finish this quilt, and I'm sure there's a pot of gold out there somewhere. Adding applique flowers to Nana's garden is like adding a breath of fresh spring air. I promised to show you how Ann Deese added these applique flowers to her Nana's garden wall hanging. Now she has some simple 5-petal flowers and some tulips that are vining around that quilt. And the technique that makes it easy is fusible interfacing. It's light to medium weight, fusible interfacing. And you can just go ahead and make a simple 5-petal flower pattern like this, place it on top of the fusible interfacing, and then with a permanent marking pen, just trace right around that pattern. Ooh, this is fun, just a curve right around there. Easy to do. And then just pair it up with some fabric. And actually, you put the fusing side next to the right side of the fabric. And then it's all set for sewing. But actually, my sister Pat had some fancy flowers pre-printed, and that's what I've added around the outside edge of this quilt, some fancy flowers. And they're just real simple, easy flowing to do. I have some leaves underneath my needle. I've already paired them up with the green. Now go ahead and put on a plastic foot and set your stitch length to 18 stitches to the inch. You want to use a tight stitch. Be great if I could find the pedal on my sewing machine. I could probably sew. Okay, and then go ahead and use the needle down position on your needle, and you just sew right on the inside edge of that line. Ooh, it's really fast and easy and fun to do. Just keep on turning that around till you get completely around it. And actually, I have some that I did pairs of these leaves already. I'm just going to go ahead and pick one of those up and show you how to trim it. Now, you trim 1/8 inch away from your stitching. Oh, a small sharp pair of scissors really helps. Now, this takes the place of needle turn, where in applique you actually turn under those raw edges. Oh my gosh. Well, when you stitch on the line, then those raw edges are going to just be turned under by the time we're done. Okay, I've got it all trimmed out. Now, with your scissors, just slit a small hole right in the fusible interfacing. Then you need a couple of special tools. Oh, now this one is really special. You need to have a straw, and you need to have a ballpoint bodkin. It has to have this ballpoint right on the tip, because you're going to take this straw, just insert it right in there, and let's go right out to the tip of that leaf and turn it so that the fabric is on the end of the straw. And then with the tip on the bodkin, the ballpoint on the bodkin, just go ahead and just push that right in there. Oh boy, we need some turning music. Whoops, didn't mean to take it the whole way through, but we can get it out quickly. Okay, the leaf is now 1/2 turned. So you just go ahead and take that straw, get it back in there on that other side. Boy, do I feel like I'm all fumbles today. Just can't get that in there. Well, come on, cooperate with me. Yes! Okay, now turn it again. Ball tip on the leaf. Just push that right through there. Got that whole leaf completely turned. And then just roll it around, roll that ball tip around in the inside. And once you have it pretty well smooth, crease it with your fingers. And right here I have just a little bit, like to pull out that point on the leaf. So just take the stiletto and just pick at it from the right side. Ooh, that's looking good, getting a nice shape. Boy, wouldn't it be neat if leaves were perfect in nature? Well, I do have a pansy that I want to show you too. This is going to add a lot of class to that 5-petal flower. Right here, I just took a little pansy, cut it out of a piece of fabric. You can layer it with the fusible interfacing dotted side next to the right side of the fabric. And then from this side, just sew around the outline of that pansy. And then trim it back. Here's that small piece right here. Now let's see if I can get my straw on this one. Oh, wow, I did it a lot easier that time. And then just take the bodkin, push that in there, pop that right out, and then just finish turning that pansy right side out. Got it all started. Oh, such a tiny little piece. Use that ball and the bodkin. Just run that around there. And then I'm using this little pansy just to add a touch right to the center of that 5-petal flower. Actually, I have already fused down onto my border, design right here like this. Going to center this right on this side, and then along here. I'm going to sew this to my top, and then as soon as it's sewn, I'm going to use this 5-petal flower to kind of overlap into the triangle, put that pansy right on top. Looking good. Let me show you how you fuse that in place. I already have one of my border pieces over here, and I've measured it so that it's exactly the same spot. And all you need to do is place the fusible next to the fabric, line that up perfect. Oh, let's see. Looking good. All right. A little steam, little heat, just hold that down, fuse that in place, and let's see, great. So now, all I need to do is put some invisible thread in the top part of my sewing machine. Go ahead and use the blind hem stitch. Oh, now it's so blind, you're not going to be able to see it. But if you take the blind hem stitch and invisible thread in the top, then you can just machine sew right around that flower, fuse that in place, and you'll just have a breath of fresh spring air. I never did get to take care of these. I was just having too much fun quilting. Well, if I dry these in my attic, I'll be able to enjoy them all through the winter. Well, dried flowers may stay as bright and beautiful as the colors in this quilt. Well, the colors remind me of the bulb flowers in the spring, like irises and tulips. Ooh, they're beautiful. Now, the colors in these antique quilts are also so vibrant. Well, this is the traditional grandmother's flower garden with all the soft pastels for the petals of flowers. And then there's that green path for Grandma to meander through as she tends to them. Now, if there are flowers in the garden, well, then there's certainly butterflies fluttering about. Now, this applique butterfly quilt was made in the 1930s as well, and that yellow is still so vibrant. Well, we've been making this very same butterfly using fusible interfacing. Now, if you just go ahead and stitch on the line, trim it and turn it, you can just fuse it down for a great 30s quilt. Now, you also might find an antique grandmother's flower garden block. You can do the very same thing, just stitch it on fusible interfacing, trim it and turn it, and then you can use this to embellish the bottom of a skirt, or you might even put it right on the front of a blouse. It would be great. Well, the love of gardening is a seed that once sown never dies. Well, quilting is the same. So enjoy sowing your Nana's garden.